morning, everyone. Good morning. Good to see everyone. I'm just going to quickly start with a little bit of an agenda of what today looks like. So we're going to have a really short connector and introduction today, and then I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Edward Gonzalez, who's going to talk about sustaining mentorship. And he was here during our last deep dive session, so he'll be continuing his discussion from that. And after we leave here today, if you weren't here last time and you want to look back at what he said, what he did last time, there is a recording on our YouTube page, so you can take a look at that. And then I will pass it to Dr. Dee Watts, who will talk about mentor teacher selection. And again, she was here in our second deep dive. So if you missed that one and you'd like to see that one again, the recording is on our YouTube page. All right, so I'm going to go to our connector, which is what is a moment of glimmer from your program or work this academic year? I know that it's really hard. It's, the end of April, which means everybody's thinking about finals or testing and state testing and everything, but I want you to think back about like what's something that really stood out to you that was like a moment of success or a glimmer or something that like you hope will stick with you as you go into the summer. And you can put that in the chat. Or you can come off mute. Please feel free to come off mute. Watching the growth and confidence of our residents. I love that. Thanks, Nadine. It's always amazing to see like end of year resident confidence and demeanor compared to the beginning of year demeanor. A glimmer is getting so much support during the recruitment process for mentors and residents. Oh, you have your first cohort and you're ready to start in August. Amazing. Congratulations. All of our residents passed the Ed TPA on their first try. That's great. Oh, these are great glimmers. Love it. Lots of growth in both residents as well as mentors. We've been working in supporting self-directedness and it's going well. That's awesome. That will serve them very well. We'll continue to keep putting glimmers in as you think of them. Okay, sorry, I see one more come in. 3 successful community of practice meetings with California and Texas residency partners. Amazing. Several research proposals and projects underway studying residencies. That is great. Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. So I just want to, as always, I'm pretty sure everybody here has heard this before, but we always ground all of the work we do here at the lab and SRTAC in the 10 characteristics of effective residencies. So I'm just reminding us of that and regrounding our work today in those characteristics. And if you come to the symposium, you will hear about the characteristics a lot. The ones that this program really focuses on is 1, which is equity, 8, which is mentorship, and 5, which is effective hiring practices. I'm really excited to pass the buck right now to our first presenter today, Dr. Edward Gonzalez. He is an educational leader specializing in teacher education, technology, and professional development. As a county level director, he enhances teaching through accessible resources. His accolades include Teacher of the Year and multiple fellowships. Dr. Gonzalez is also a university faculty member, teaching credential and master's level courses. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Gonzalez.
I'm really excited. I think I had my cup filled with the last presentation, so taking part in this again today is definitely a highlight for my week. All right, awesome. So last presentation, if you remember, I did a pedagogical acknowledgement for the work of Horace Tate. This time I really want to showcase and highlight the work of Samantha Stickley. Samantha Stickley was a phenomenal educator that I had the opportunity to visit in the San Diego or at San Marcos. And really all of the work that I'm going to be sharing today was inspired by a really great classroom visit with her. So this is session number 2. And just to kind of recap and give you an idea of what we're building up from, in session number 1, participants will develop a common vocabulary and understanding of key concepts related to equity in education, specifically focusing on skills that support that support and the retention of teachers of color within traditional educational systems. In that last session, we kind of built from theory and we started out really wide and then we drilled down. In this session now, we're going to kind of start really deep in the work, and then we're going to widen the lens and see how that applies to you all specifically. So here today, participants, you're going to learn to carve out that special privileged time to prioritize the development of that common vocabulary and practices. And I'm looking forward to sharing all those strategies with you. And then as you go through the presentation, you might see some links here. So this is from a great lesson demonstration from a class up in Lindsay, California. So my agenda for today, really aligning initiatives through the eyes of Carla and Jen. So I'm carrying this entire presentation through some vignettes. I used to work as a program specialist for a residency program. So really when I'm looking and creating this entire presentation and all of this work, I'm looking at it through the lens of some of the things that we did that were most impactful, as well as things that, you know, now with hindsight and with additional training, I wish I was able to do differently to support people like Carla and Jen. We're going to be going through an activity called a common experience, or see it, name it, try it. We're going to be looking at some vignettes, and then finally carving out time in busy schedules. Like how do you're going to walk away kind of midway through the presentation with like, okay, but now what? Like who has time for this or who has time for that? And I'm really hoping that we can address that today. So just one of the day one reminders, I think, to really anchor or to kind of drive home what the original theory was when we talk about what does it mean to go from deficit to asset based, and sustaining mentorship through how we communicate. So I'm really thinking about the lens of I'd worked at what would be referred to as a turnaround school with students. You know, we used to say at risk. Now we realize they're students at promise, students that we've let down without having all the opportunities that they deserve. In that type of scenario, I would hear things like, the kids in this class just don't listen. You know, this community doesn't value learning or put an emphasis on education. Now with a asset-based mindset, we can say things like, well, can we engage the students by providing access to more relevant material that is authentic to their experience? When we talked about that last time, the idea was that we're giving our residents and our mentors almost like an intellectual self-defense through the language that we're using, so that we can reframe the language and the words that are used to describe some of the challenges that we see. The student has issues, he can't sit down and listen. Can we nurture joy and play in this lesson? Can we develop awareness in self and others in this lesson? She's from Mexico. She doesn't speak English. She's already working in the field, and school isn't important for her family. Can we build on her home culture and prior forms of knowledge? And then the roughest one that I remember hearing is, he's been in ELD forever. He's far too behind to be reading novels on grade level. As long as he's quiet, it's okay. And then can we scaffold the language in the novels and provide graphic organizers to support note taking? So again, we're equipping our mentors, our mentees with a lot of that language to be able to be successful within the field without carrying that extra intellectual load and baggage of also being our equity champions. However, none of this language is made up. This all comes from the ELD and from UDL and some of the best practices that we are supposed to be already implementing in the class. So now we're going to jump right into, like I said, we're gonna start low and then we're gonna expand. So Carla, we're going back through the eyes of Carla, who's a vignette of a resident that I did have. So Carla is a dual language TK resident. She's struggling with classroom management and engaging students in her lesson. Carla's mentor, Jen, is an excellent classroom teacher, but Carla's finding it difficult to mirror Jen's instructional moves. Why do you think Carla's having trouble, even when her mentor is such a great classroom teacher? Share your responses in the chat. You're speaking to my heart immediately, Kate. Maybe the teaching style is different. Maybe the mentor isn't breaking down the instructional strategies to help the resident understand how she makes things happen. Jen may not be naming what she's doing. What is automatic to her might not be obvious to her resident. That's a big one. Perhaps there's limited modeling. She might not understand the why behind Jen's actions. And then if I could get a couple more to drop those in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and paste some of these here. Maybe Carla's too shy to ask questions, or Jen's communication door isn't open. So there's a lot, right? There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of different things to do. Ultimately, we do not know unless we ask and we're able to have those conversations, right? Because there could be a million of different ways. One reason could be, it could be one thing. For one specific setting, it could be something different with with a separate setting, and and that's okay. We're all human. Last time when we met, we looked at it really through the lens of UDL and ELD and being able to remove specific barriers for students. Today, we're going to be looking at this through an activity. The activity and everything is going to be within the article. So what I'm going to give you right now is I'm going to give you 10 minutes to read through the article, and then we're going to come back, and I'm just going to ask you to share some higher level ideas that you got, any aha moments that you've gotten out of the article, and you can also click on it through the presentation. All right, awesome. I see a few of you already dropping your wisdom and your knowledge into slide number 14. So I'm just going to go ahead and read a couple of them. After observing a model, the teacher that can see more of what is possible and guiding the teacher to identify their own gap gives them ownership over their improvement. And that's the ownership component, that now this is something that is theirs, that they're selecting. However, next you have giving them a question that guides the target, that target, what matters most in the model, and guides the teacher toward what you need them to see. So you can leave it open-ended. However, best practice would be to actually give them that purpose and give them that guide, focusing on small targeted areas of improvement. So again, you see that targeted component. And then having a good model for the teacher to see after trying the skill themselves is important. And I think that's that beautiful kind of cyclical component, right? So you see it, name it, try it, and then come back and explore it again, and then see, where you can improve on it, or where you can add on it. All right, awesome. So for the purpose of these observations that we're going to be conducting today, we're going to be looking at them through the lens of UDL. UDL, again, is something that we worked on extensively in in the past session number 1. Now, when we're looking at it through UDL for today, why are we looking at it through the lens of UDL? Well, that's one of the core key components that they're going to be required to learn when it comes to their TPEs. Another big component when it comes to UDL is that UDL, again, it's within the UDL construct. We move away from deficit-based observations of our students by focusing on barriers within the learning environment. So rather than saying this class is tough or the students don't listen, or even the deficit-based perspective when we're thinking of our residents, Carla is having trouble engaging students, we recognize that there are specific barriers with engagement and access to the lesson. So here I'm going to pick this apart. This comes from CAST, and these are the UDL guidelines. And so when I say that Carla's having trouble engaging students and starting the lesson, I'm really talking about here underneath engagement and access. So I can look at what are the interests and identities. We're not gonna dig deeper into those. I'm gonna select one for you, but it's optimizing choice and autonomy, optimizing relevance, value, and authenticity, nurturing joy and play, addressing biases, threats, and distractions. When I dug into this myself deeper, I went directly to address biases, threats, and distractions. And there are a few things that stood out to me that I would be able to highlight. And I made those in bold. So I said, one of the most important things an educator can do is to create an accepting and supportive space for learners in which they feel valued, supported, agentic, and encouraged to take risk, form their own opinions, and engage in dialogue. So to do this, educators need to address subtle potential biases, threats, and distractions in the learning environment. And I know what you might be thinking, like, Eddie, but this is TK. Like, how does that apply to TK? And so that's what we're going to piece apart as we go into the video right now. But looking at these kind of descriptors, vary the level of novelty or risk through charts, calendars, schedules, visible timers, cues, etc., that can increase the predictability of daily activities and transitions. Now we're speaking the TK language. Creation of class routines. Now we're definitely speaking basically the elementary in the entire K8 language. Alerts and previews that can help learners anticipate and prepare for change in activities, schedules, and novel events. So I'm thinking of my Carla again, and again, Carla's struggling with her classroom management, engaging students within lessons. And so today, Carla's going to visit Vicky's classroom for a lesson demonstration. So I'm really excited. I'm taking Carla over to Vicky's class. Vicky's a rock star. She just got featured in the newspaper this school year. Everybody knows who Vicky is. We're all excited about it. However, Carla's going to be focusing on classroom management and student engagement. So while we watch this clip, I want you to identify some of the strategies that that Vicky's implementing. Name the strategy, select a strategy, and then we're going to try and implement that strategy. Or we're going to pretend that we're with Carla, we're her mentor, and we're going to try and implement that strategy in the future. So this is going to be, we're going to watch minutes 1 through 5, and you're going to see this is basically Vicky's class. It's unedited, and you're going to see kind of the power behind the work that she does. But let me see. As I start playing, give me a thumbs up if you could hear it.
Yo veo a Sofía, ella está lista, sus pies están cruzados. Ya me dijo ella, todo está bien. Voy a contar a 10 y necesito a todos mis amigos en su cuadrado. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ayúdenme. 6, 7, 8, 9. Grayson, ¿listo? Casi. 9:30. Y ahí viene, ya casi viene Grayson, 9:30. Caminando. Y 10. Pies cruzados, manos cruzadas, boca cerrada y a escuchar. Gracias, Manolo. Hoy vamos a usar nuestra imaginación. ¿Puedes decir imaginación? Así, mira, pensamos así, pero nuestra imaginación es así.
Es un nombre.
¿Sí? ¿Puedes decir imaginación?
Imaginación.
Pero primero yo quiero que recordemos qué hemos aprendido, ¿sí? Vamos a decir, yo observo, porque vamos a usar nuestra imaginación para dibujar algo nuevo. ¿Listo, Grayson? Vamos a ver, ¿qué observamos?
Oso. Oso.
Vamos a decirlo todo. Yo observo un oso. Correcto. Oso respetuoso. Sí. Muy bien. Yo observo un... ¿Se acuerdan de ese animal?
Murciélago.
Correcto. Murciélago. Yo sé quién fue. Vamos, es un bebé. Vamos a decirlo juntos. ¿Listo? Todos. Quiero escuchar sus voces. Yo observo. Oh, ¿dónde están sus binoculares? Un murciélago. A ver, vamos a ver qué más miramos. Yo veo a...
All right. So before I ask you to put something in the chat here, I got to give some full transparency here. When I was working with the residency program, sometimes I would have to sub so that I can clear time for somebody to go observe classes, etc. And I did get to go to a TK class, and that was one of the roughest experiences that I've ever had in a classroom. Kindergarten cop, kindergarten cop vibes all the way. Not the advanced kindergarten cop, but like that first day, all of that. And when I came back and I got to see the videos, and looking through the lens of instructional moves and kind of exactly what the teacher was doing, because I couldn't, it all made sense to me, right? But that's obviously with hindsight. So now, using the list on the right, identify some of the UDL strategies the teacher is implementing, name the strategies, select the strategy you think Vicky should try and implement, or not Vicky, sorry, it should be Carla. Select the strategy that you think Carla should try and implement. Now, part of the reason I selected a video in Spanish is because I felt like the strategies themselves were like universal. You could see independent of the content, independent of the language, you could see a lot of the moves just kind of glowing through it. So if you could put those into the chat for me, what strategies did you see her doing that would work very well And then what would you coach Carla into trying to implement in her next session or in her next lesson? So obviously what's oozing out are the class routines. Like they're just present and it's there. It's obvious. She didn't start teaching until all the students were seated. She counted down. She counted down from 10. The students obviously knew the routines, the classroom routines with small redirections, positive tone, the volume. And so if I look at what that UDL strategy here is, it's that creation of routines. Okay. And so, you know, one of the things that we mentioned before, sometimes when we just say, well, Vicky's a good teacher, that in a sense that kind of puts her, in a sense, it puts her work down because it doesn't acknowledge like the amount of prep that she's done to get her class to that level. So yeah, we can say Vicky's a good teacher, but maybe we could also say Vicky's a great teacher who has spent a lot of time working on routines and creating routines, such as how students are supposed to sit at the floor, such as how students respond to prompts on the board, and such as those total physical response elements and the way that students respond using their hands and their gestures as well. So then later that day, we're excited because the day has freed up, and I say, hey, you know what? We actually have another teacher. Do you want to see what those students look like when they get to second grade? We're going to go to Estella's class. Estella's class is right down the hall, and you're going to get to see the beginning of it. So here, Carla, I'm going to want you to see. I want you to see, are there similar strategies or the same strategies that Estella's using as she starts her lesson? And so I'm going to go ahead and play that one. And that's going to be what I'm asking you as we come back.
Hey, alto. Pon tus lápices sobre la mesa. Gracias. Si no terminaste, después vas a tener oportunidad de terminar. Mira la pantalla. Mira el universo. Este niño o niña dibujó la uniceja y otro estudiante dibujó el número 1, porque uni es 1. Uni es 1. Ok. Párate, agarra tu papel, vamos a hacer su cucú y compartes tus papeles. Camina, alza la mano.
My one.
Okay, busca tu pareja. Comparte. Comparte.
Sí.
Ya. Ve a compartir. Ve a compartir. Explica qué es uni y qué dibujaste. Okay, alto. Okay, cambia de pareja. Camina. Gracias. Explica qué es uni. Explica qué es uni. Explica qué es uni. Allá. Explica qué es uni. Hermosos. Oh, okay. ¿De Ok, dale gracias a tu compañero. Pon tu papel acá y siéntate en la alfombra. Gracias. Lo pueden poner donde va. Ok. Vamos a ver si podemos sentarnos en la alfombra cuando llegue a 1. 3, 2.
All right, now Carla walks out, and Using the list on the right, identify UDL strategies in Estella's class that are similar to strategies in Vicky's class. How are the strategies different? And go ahead and put that in the chat. What did you see that's similar? What did you see that's different? How would you coach, or what would you coach Carla into identifying? The proximity is a big one, right? All the way up until like, even like, yeah, all the way. Proximity is a big one. Lots of repetitive prompting, countdown strategies. You see the countdown strategies again, just like you saw them earlier. Clear directions, the routines. So it's like automatic. The kids see that, they see it happening. So now Carla can walk away again. It's not like magic. It's not, oh, she's, Estella's just a really good teacher. It's like Estella is a good teacher because Estella has spent a lot of time establishing routines. Her kids understand their expectations. Her kids practice those activities, and she has a lot of proximity within in the instructional space. She's out there, she's present, she's guiding students through all of it. And so then I'm going to give you one more. And then this one's exciting. So this is Samantha Stickley, the one that I gave the pedagogical acknowledgement to. And the reason I give her that acknowledgement is because so within our project, we're doing lesson demonstrations across the state. And so a lot of those demonstrations, we do these kind of highlight videos highlighting teachers and showcasing their work. But when I'm standing in the back of the classroom, like, she was really just that good. And I was thinking, like, God, I wish everybody could see this. And then we sat there, we're like, no, keep that camera there and don't move it, just so that in the future people could come back and be able to actually look at it, and kind of piece it apart. So this was the first one that we set up that way, so that we have a ton of great videos that are out there, kind of highlight, ESPN, NBA-ish type thing. But thanks to just being inspired with her work, I'm going to show you what hers looks like. And again, do you see same or similar strategies in place in Estella and Vicky's classroom? And then how would you, now the big question is going to be, how do you leverage these types of strategies across your program? Because now I think what we're going to see is that thing that always comes up where we know good teaching. We always say that it's just good teaching. And then it's like, well, we know what good teaching is, right? But how do we leverage that? Like, how do we don't just speak it into existence. So here's Samantha Stickley.
Right, here we go. Yeah. Times are out. And I'm just gonna actually, I'm gonna close the camera, right? Because we have some room. So you two, why don't you sit right here? Okay. There you go. Right. Counters are out. Counters are open. We are writing down our homework. Homework is posted on the board. Homework for tonight is to charge your Chromebook. As soon as you are done writing down your homework, please raise your hands so that I may come by and chat. Once I've come by and chat, you can go ahead and put away your counters. Yeah, right. I'm gonna pass around the mic today just so that everyone's voice can be heard. Okay, here we go. In a nice loud voice, please read our fun fact of the day. Maybe.
Dragon is usually John with 172 skills.
Awesome. Puzzle today, so Ms. Stewart, I'm so sorry. I apologize right now. Typically what would happen is I would flip to the next slide and you'd be able to see this picture much larger. Fix something in there tomorrow. I think something was wrong with the internet, so I'm sorry we don't get a puzzle today. Challenge. Please read the challenge for us, Ethan M.
Spend at least 20 minutes talking to a member of your immediate family today.
No. Mom, yeah, mom, dad, sister, brother. Find one of them. Talk to them for 20 minutes today. Spend some time with them. Paul, which do you prefer? Do you prefer bananas or apples? And then finally, please read or share out for us.
Caitlin. If you could add a pet to your family, what would you add? I would add blank because.
The person who gets to go first today will be the Hearts. Hearts, please turn and talk with your group members.
I love bananas, sorry, but.
All right, so that is how Samantha's kids come in, and it was one of the pieces that was like the most impressive for me was this was the inclusion class, and there also was a student on, or there was multiple English learners in the class, and if you go through the rest of the video, she has them speaking like with the academic language at a very high, rigorous level. But what stood out to me is just the way that she starts out the class was impressive. Like it was like, oh wow, like the kids enjoy doing these type of activities even at the middle school level. So now what I'm going to ask you is, did you see the same or similar strategies taking place in Estella and Vicky's classroom? And how would you potentially leverage those types of strategies across a program? Because now we're talking about good teaching. I believe that's what we're talking about now. And then you see there, Kimberly says, clear steps, routine, students know what to do at all times, the same. Dr. Battle says, proximity, bite-sized instructions, routines. Jessica, similar, consistent, routines, expectations. Yeah, and then Dr. Herman, the same, they bring in high interest topics, build engagement. And then again, the clear, explicit directions with visuals on the board. So it's fascinating, right? Because you can say, what does it take to be a really good teacher? Or what does it take to have like solid classroom management? And everybody says routines, expectations. But it's that thing where you have to see it. And then once you see it, you realize, oh yeah, that really does apply across the board. However, we're the ones seeing it right now. So how would our mentor see it? How do our residents see it? And that's going to bring you to my next question, which is like minimizing downtime, a couple more explicit directions, visuals. And that's going to bring us to another question down the line here, which is like, how do we make sure that we implement that? Okay, but we know that there's also reality, right? Reality meaning, how do we implement it, and what are all the big kind of challenges and barriers that we have? So I'm gonna look at this realistically through the eyes of my Carla and my Jen, our resident and our mentor. So resident teacher Carla, this is the month of October. It's the month of October and the grind is setting in. Carla, our resident teacher, is feeling burned out. Carla feels a sense of impending doom with coursework assignments being late, upcoming TPE submission deadline, her lesson plans are due, and there's an upcoming district training she needs to attend. And meanwhile, I'm saying, hey, we got, UDL, focus on the students, bring this out. And Carla's, worried. Why? Because all of these things matter. And then there's Jen. October to Jen seems a little bit busier than it usually is, but it is what it is. Jen's been doing it for a while. Carla's leading the class, but she's consistently late with her lesson plans, and she's starting to take sick days to complete her coursework. The district is rolling out a large new initiative that requires all of us to miss a day of work, and the residency program's monthly meeting is next week, and we haven't logged all of our observation hours yet, right? So now there's all of these things kind of stacking up. It's that October vibe. We all feel it. We all know it is. It's happening. And then I'm sharing like, some of these practices with you and I'm saying, roll them out. And then once that grind sets in, how do we roll them out if people are in survival mode? So before I give you my experience in being able to roll some of that out, I want to ask you, how does your program or how might your program integrate observation opportunities with other educators? So if you do integrate those types of observation opportunities, how do you do it? Or in what capacity do you do it? And then you can put it in the chat or you could drop it directly into the slide. Dr. Carol Battle mentions letting them trade places with other residents to do observations. That's the unlucky way that I ended up in a TK classroom where I said, I'll cover the sub. Yeah, that'll work. I'll cover the sub because we didn't have that in place at the time. Ensure the placement at the school allows the resident to take time off to either visit another school or observe at their school. Dr. Watts, hello, hello. And if I could get one more, if they have a suggestion, how can we carve that time out? We have a couple. We've had mentors share their videos of their residents with each other to discuss what feedback might be most beneficial. Helping mentors see it, name it, do it, love it. Release time to observe for specific areas that need that arrow so that they have time to, that are narrow so that they have time to digest small areas of growth. And then finally here we have Dr. Herman saying letting mentors observe other mentors in the co-planning and coaching situation, all of which are powerful, right? Because it's putting them in the driver's seat. When I was working within the residency program, there's obviously like there's different there's all these different things going on, right? The district has professional learning, district requirements, school admin. What are district requirements? Well, you've got to go do this type of training specifically. You have to implement these types of practices. School administrator, well, I want everybody to attend this, or if you're at our school and you want to get the full feeling, you should be doing this as well. Within the residency program, first and foremost, TPEs. We got to pass all of the TPEs, the program initiatives. This year we're focusing on this, and then program priorities. We always do this because this is something that we've always done within the university. There's the coursework, there's the university requirements, there's the teacher ed priorities. So when we say like we're juggling plates, everybody's juggling plates, those plates are stacked high. What we did one year is we streamlined everything and we said in service of TPA. Like if it's in the service of TPA, that is what we're going to focus on. So we're going to look at what is the district doing in service of TPA. How is the district in service of TPA? Well, the UDL component, the district does want professional learning management. The district does want support for ELs. The district does want you to get to know your students. What does the university want? The university wants all of those same components. So what we looked at the entire program is it has to be in service of TPA. And one of the things that we learned when we did that was we were actually, from one year to the next, we were able to cut the amount of hours that students or that residents and mentors were dedicating to the program in the month of October. We gave them a lot more of that free time. And then what that free time did is it gave us the opportunity to do things like visiting classrooms and what we would call mentor walks and resident walks. So it gave the mentors the opportunity to go and visit other classrooms at other schools. It gave residents the opportunity to do the same. And it was all because we were able to align and cut out anything that wasn't in support of the TPAs. So what did that look like? You could take this, but this is how we mapped it ourselves. We mapped it across the professional development within the program itself, and then the classroom management course. So when it was these first months right here, this is August. So it's right off the bat, what skill are you looking for? Doing the demographic information. We used to use we were using the Danielson domain. And then what was the class itself doing? The class was doing the TPA demographic section, and then they were actually looking at videos for that classroom management component. And so what that kind of looked like through videos was naming, calibrating with videos and rubrics, identifying practices within videos and site visits. So it's like we were leveraging what was happening in the class, the readings, the videos, etc., and then using them later in professional learning or within the monthly meetings, and then making sure that that was aligned to TPA. So it's like they were doing their TPA. Obviously, they can't get that they can't get like that specific feedback on the TPA, but they're allowed to ask questions. But scaling down the time, working with videos, having them create their own videos, and then actually being able to see that applied across the program saved us time, helped them work more towards the TPAs, and it led to a better experience. And then even for me, as a program specialist, that was exciting because now I'm at school sites and I'm getting to see a lot more of it. This is we would do something called resident walks, and so we would go and residents would get to go see other residents teaching, focusing on instructional strategies. And then we did something called mentor walks, and we built up to the mentor walks. And so then that was the opportunity for mentors to be able to start seeing how other mentors are operating, and then be able to actually have those conversations with mentors as well. And again, it was the being able to streamline both all of the initiatives across the program and free up time so that people can do that type of work. And so like when I'm sharing these videos, I'm sharing the videos are kind of like that initial step. So if you walk away with those videos here from the program, or from this session, that's awesome. You know, walk away with the videos. You have a little bank of videos. You can share them and you can showcase them. But at some point, the idea is that like they're not watching videos. They're either watching other people on their campus, they're watching other people at other schools, and then they're building that relationship, right? Because these videos here are just kind of like a snippet of what good teaching looks like. Ultimately, there's the collaboration. Teaching is a team sport. But with that said, I'm going to share another pretty cool piece with you. So after we were working with Samantha, we realized that like she was not just Samantha, she was our first one, but our first demo video, her and Kelsey Pelter. But she was really, really, really good. And I would have frank conversations with Samantha, and I would say like, how do you do it? And she tells me, well, I used to work in central LA, that's where I really honed like a lot of like my craft. And then, but how does, like, how do you set this all up? This is I'm kind of walking in and seeing the finished product. And so I'm going to show you a little interview here where Samantha explains like why her class is thebomb.com. Does anybody still say that? I don't think so. It is what it is.
So one of the parts that just kind of floored me was the breadth of different types of activities and collaborative structures in which you had students working. And I mean, there were times where they're working in groups, they're working together. There's kind of like a large whole class circle going on. And I know that, that's in a way we're seeing the end product. What does it look like to get your students to work in those type of dynamic learning environments? Like, how do you set up norms and expectations with lessons? And maybe even thinking about it through the lens of, back to school teachers, classes are coming up again here pretty soon. What does that look like on day one?
So I think my day one is different every year, but I always try to do science, like right away, right at the beginning. For example, this year I'm going to do something called sound cups. So I'm going to give them cups, and they're like two red solo cups, and they're put together. And when you shake them, they make a sound, and they're going to have to find their sound partner. So it's, you can't see what's inside, but somebody else, when we shake them, they're going to make the same sound. And then I'll give them a tray from which they have to engineer a third cup, a third sound partner that matches theirs. So they're getting to know each other, right? It's not, oh, I'm looking for my friend, or to feel comfortable within the classroom. I'm pushing them out of their comfort zone, but like in a fun way. Like I'm allowing them to have those experiences, especially as middle school students. Like it's not that they don't have it. They're trying to figure out who they are. And if they don't feel cool, if they don't feel like they fit in, they're not going to just walk up to somebody else. And I don't think that you even have to feel cool or feel like you're going to fit in. It's I don't know you, so I don't want to talk to you. So I'm kind of like trying to break down that wall. I'm trying to get them to see from a perspective that we all have a voice within this classroom, and it doesn't matter who you are or where you came from. We belong together here. So they're going to use this sound partner activity to start to get to know other people in the classroom, but also they're doing science, right? They're going to engineer something right away, and they're going to be able to take this and then move those ideas forward.
So her big thing is they are scientists on day one, and more so than they are scientists, we are scientists. So it's not just one student. And so I think kind of part of that magic of teaching, right? We're drilled down and we're focused and we're saying, those instructional moves, but within those instructional moves, there's a culture. And the culture is like, that's the secret sauce. That's what teachers do. So there is a little bit of, I guess there is a little bit of a magic to it, but the magic is the person and how they implement it, right? So that's where the science and the art of it happens. So what I'm going to open this up to questions, and then Dr. Kate, she dropped a question in there. How do those ideas be used in development and welcoming of new mentors too? And so we can start with that, as well as, if you have any questions or comments. What I am going to encourage you to do is, so all these resources are free on California Educators Together. You can explore the site, or you can create your own account. You can explore the site. You can also join the group of California Educators Together video lesson demos. We're still currently adding some, but we have all of these here. We have TK, second grade, third grade, math, science, and we actually have over 20 right now that we're still uploading, etc. So get on there. They're all free. It's all coming from an initiative with the California Department of Education. But yeah, bring it back. Questions, comments?
I can just elaborate on the question I had in the chat, which is just that I think it's really powerful to watch mentor teachers, especially at the beginning of the school year, get their residents to understand this is how you start a school year strong. And then as the program leaders, I think it's really important to do similar things. You don't just need to start with a boring first meeting. You could have a fun, engaging activity exactly like they just did in their classroom to start, or that she just described in their classroom, to get the mentors engaged and get to know each other so they're more comfortable too, reaching out to each other to, ask for support and problem solve and all of those things. So I think a lot of these things are very teacher and classroom based, but I also think that you can take it the step further and be well, how do I embody that at the program level too?
That's a good point. I said it's a bad thing to say, but good teaching is good teaching, right? That's what I said. We shouldn't say that, but
I'll just say I appreciate the videos. It's yes, in person is a dream, in person is a way, but we don't always have that. But tomorrow we could share videos or use them to coach folks with specific things that we notice. So, and it just seems so doable too. So I just appreciate that.
And I'm just going to do one last plug to let you guys know that California Educators Together, Dr. Gonzalez and one of his colleagues are both going to be at the symposium on Thursday and Friday presenting, and they'll be presenting about a multilingual math framework as well. So make sure you connect with them if you are at the symposium, because you'll get to see lots more great resources.